Why is it that you seem to attract the same interpersonal issues again and again? You've read all the books on communication, you have the degrees, and you're objectively successful in your field, yet you still can't seem to move beyond being followed around by assholes. Everywhere you go, there is that one human roadblock, the person that seems specifically designed to test your sanity and ignore your boundaries. And more importantly, he just doesn't get you. It's because your intellect has been trying to solve a problem it was not designed to touch. Today, we're going to look at your brain through a 2026 lens, the human mind as AI. Just like a large language model, your brain doesn't need more data, it needs a better prompt. Because, like any AI, your mind can only output what your base code allows. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why your intellect is your greatest obstacle towards true sovereignty, as it serves a system that is currently disorganized. The grind? That's easy. The socially acceptable excuse to miss out on living. But sitting alone with your thoughts, facing intolerable emotions that you've been suppressing for decades, defying the patterns handed down to you as someone else's truth, very few have that courage. Welcome to the Integration Variable, the podcast for the high-functioning outlier ready to stop running and start integrating. I am your host, Dr. Alina Soto. As your integrated sovereignty strategist, I'd like to open up with some vulnerability. Specifically, my red flags. I have an enormous, no shame collection of tea and bugglers. I invite you to take a break, hug a stuffy if you've got one, and share some tea with me. Today, I'm enjoying a black tea called Butter Brew Tea that I recently collected at Comic-Con. And here today with me is my buddy for the day, Old Foggy Captain Cardiac. I'm ready to spill it. Are you? As a high performer, you've likely learned to compartmentalize, to push through, ignore the noise, and get it done. But your experiences aren't just thoughts. They are physical and chemical data packets that simply need to be organized to be understood. To do this, your mind needs a structural foundation, a base code comprised of the deepest beliefs about who you are. This system determines how you perceive every single thing that happens to you. But here's the problem. In our society, we aren't taught how to sequence our internal data. We're taught that the only thought that matters is the verbal 5 to 10%, while we ignore the other 90 to 95%, the individually unique language of experience that emerges from the entire nervous system, not just the brain. When you ignore that 95%, a backlog forms. I call this the ugly clog. It's a huge, jumbled, knotty mess of half-processed memories and nameless sensations. Unresolved emotional files that the amygdala refuses to close because it perceives them as active threats. Psychologically, this is known as the Zeigarnik effect, your brain's refusal to close open loops that it perceives as unfinished business. This clog will keep getting bigger and louder until you address the foundation creating it. Addressing that foundation requires emotional memory consolidation. Think of this as your brain's internal filing system. It's a high-speed dialogue between your prefrontal cortex, the rational strategist right here, and your amygdala, the security guard. During the process, your brain is supposed to strip the hot emotional charge off of memory and file the lesson away as a tool for the future. But when your system is disorganized, that dialogue breaks down. Instead of being filed, the experience stays live, stored as raw sensory fragments that your amygdala perceives as a present moment threat. You aren't remembering the past, you're reliving it because your system did not close that file. Let's go from disorganized to efficient. But first, here is the integration variable newsflash. Your intellect cannot mine facts. Your 34 potentially more senses can mine facts from the four realities physical reality, but your intellect lives inside of you. It exists solely to sequence data to make sense of it as a narrative. I call this the syntax trap. Because our minds are emotionally attuned, your intellect will always sequence data in alignment with the current prompt. Those foundational beliefs we talked about, or bias, just like AI programming. If you're feeling threatened, your intellect, that brilliant, high IQ engine that you are oh so proud of, will happily act as a prison architect. It will scan your entire surroundings, find every circumstantial shred of evidence from the present moment and the past to support your fear, then build a logical sounding narrative to keep you trapped in a loop forever. It's not looking for the truth. It's looking for alignment with your disorganized base code. Without awareness of this mechanism, your intelligence is simply making you more efficiently stuck. You're just a high IQ person building a more sophisticated cage. Let's run a simulation on boundaries. Imagine you are a chubby, cute Chibi AI robot tasked with interacting with that difficult person who just doesn't get it. The Chibi version of you understands the real definition of logic. Logic means looking at the whole equation. If you are actively ignoring, trying to fix, overinflating, or adding subjective morality to variables like emotionality, which is chemically real, you are not being logical. You're being incomplete and, ironically, emotional. In an organized system, when a difficult person gets upset, Chibi U pulls up tagged files from the past, recognizes them as historical data, and applies a learned tool. These tags are derived from the other 95% of thought, labels based on experiential sensation. Memory files of similar scenarios, like the fifth grade bully or the upset stranger, that due to emotional memory consolidation are sequenced to build the foundation for the prompt used as a filter for the present situation. The belief, I have the right to say no. In real time, you are able to recognize the emotional impact of your present situation. The present stimulus is feeling rejected, helpless, and worried. These are the labels that allow you to recall important learnings from your previous experiential data. As you can see, the present data matches the sensations of the memory files that are recalled. Chibi U doesn't have a better personality. Chibi U has a better indexing system. When that difficult person yells, Chibi U doesn't have to scan an entire 20-year history of every time someone was mean to them. They have a tagged file for upset stranger that includes the learn tool Not everyone will like me. And that's a data point, not a disaster. The intellect can now sequence together each learning experience into a tool that can be applied in the now. This past foundation will form a belief system as the prompt. I have the right to say no. With this belief system, the new incoming data is absorbed easily and yields the appropriate output. In this case, the behavior of saying no. Now, let's look at what happens when the mind lacks a system and is simply disorganized. Okay, as you can see, in this case, the new incoming data is overwhelming the internal organizational system. It hits critical mass and switches to survival mode. This causes blood shunting. Your brain literally starves the prefrontal cortex, where your strategy and executive functions live, and shunts that blood to the limbic system for reactivity. You aren't weak. You're neurologically starved. You fall into toxic fawning because your intellect is being suffocated by the ugly clog, a high friction debris field of unprocessed data fragments of the fight you didn't finish and the fear you didn't name. In an attempt to survive the present moment and feel a sense of control, the belief sequence from this mess is, I do everything wrong. This is also the same process that occurs when you are triggered. A disorganized system is a traumatized system. Suppressing the work of unraveling the ugly clog and organizing data is usually due to avoidance of pain or fear. This is the work that most people won't do. If you're ready to stop doing homework and start building architecture, it's time to take your internal system from disorganized to efficient. As an integrated sovereignty strategist, I help you dissolve this mess step by step. The goal of my course, Break the Trauma Loop, is to relay out your neural network so the present moment data is no longer recolored by the pain of fifth grade. For this episode, I've developed a sovereignty system audit to help you map your own ugly clog and identify the syntax traps stealing your bandwidth. Click the link in the description below to get started on your technical upgrade. I will see you next time with more tea.